I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psychacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the subject of today's short talk is the disconfirming emotional experience. This is a somewhat technical term, the disconfirming emotional experience. And I'm here to explain what it is and how it's actually at the heart of the therapeutic process. So, people come to therapy because, as a result of their experiences, they develop beliefs or models of reality that attempt to make sense of what happened to them in the past and that may no longer be entirely aligned with reality in the present. So, for example, let's say a particular client, his father abandoned the family when he was a boy. And in his child-appropriate egocentrism, he developed the belief that the father's leaving was really his fault because he was too weak and needy. Maybe even his mother led him to believe that to be true. Keep in mind that this needn't be a fully conscious belief in order to exert influence on an individual's behavior. Consequently, this client may then have extrapolated a rule from this belief designed to protect him from future abandonment. Something like, if I show weakness or vulnerability, I will push people out of my life, and therefore, I must not show any signs of weakness or vulnerability in any of my personal relationships. So, you see, it makes a kind of sense, this belief, and it served the function of allowing that child to feel as though he had some measure of control over his circumstances, which was helpful, as children are generally in such powerless, dependent states via their caregivers. The issue is that it's not entirely aligned with reality. Most likely, the father in this case left the family for reasons that had nothing to do with the child's expressed vulnerability. And if unaddressed, this belief can come to loggerheads in adult interpersonal relationships, especially romantic relationships. So what does this have to do with therapy? Such an individual could potentially arrive in therapy, probably because he's been having unsatisfying relationships, and the treatment could just focus exclusively on understanding where this belief came from, or explicating the psychodynamic process of the fear of abandonment, or exploring the client's emotional experience. And this person could literally be in therapy for decades without anything appreciably changing. All of this discussion is just prelude to the emotionally disconfirming experience, which, as I've said, is at the core of the therapeutic process. Basically, what this means is that the client actually needs to go through the feared experience and come out the other side feeling that things are going to be okay. That's it. So in the context of this hypothetical example, it would mean this person would need to be willing to take the risk to show vulnerability in a relationship and to feel, not to understand rationally, but to actually feel that he hasn't been punished as a result of doing so, that it's actually okay, or that it could even potentially have strengthened the relationship. And this person might have to do this not just once, not just twice, but 10 or 20 times, in order to disentangle the behavior from the feared outcome. It's not a cognitive thing. It's not an intellectual thing. It's an emotional thing. It was really scary to do. I was terrified that the feared outcome was going to transpire, but it didn't. Oh, wow. And it didn't enough times that I can kind of begin to trust that this belief that I created to protect myself in the past may no longer be necessary, because it's not ultimately based in the reality of my new present experience. So if you're not having disconfirming emotional experiences in the context of your therapeutic work, you may need to reconsider what you're doing there. So that's all I have to say. If you have a topic you would like discussed in a future episode or would like to set up a consultation, you can contact me at psychackspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.